You might not know this, but the true ruler of the Ice Age kingdom wasn't a predator. The most powerful presence on that frozen stage wasn't a saber-toothed cat or a pack of dire wolves. It was something far more commanding. Its power wasn't written in blood, but etched into the very fabric of the world around it, so subtly, so profoundly, that it almost went unnoticed. This is the allure of the creature lurking behind the curtain, Giant Ground Sloth. But don't let that name fool you. This wasn't some sleepy animal dangling lazily from a tree. This was a continental titan, an ecological engineer of extraordinary influence, where every breath, every footstep, every instinctive motion reshaped the environment around it, without meaning to. It carved the fate of entire ecosystems, quietly bending the destinies of countless species, even ones as fearsome as the saber-tooth cat, who lived in the wake of its influence. The giant ground sloth is living proof that the most supreme power can sometimes wear the gentlest face. And now, it's time we uncover its story. Let's begin our journey into the world of the giant ground sloth. How could a creature that seems so harmless wield such overwhelming power? The answer lies in how it lived, in the way it moved through the world, turning basic survival into a force of creation more impactful than any predator could ever hope to be. Look at those hands, not as weapons, but as nature's most powerful biological excavators. Each curved claw, nearly a foot long, wasn't just for defense. It was a bone-forged pickaxe, a living tool. When the earth cracked under a merciless sun, when life withered in thirst, the Megatherium didn't wait for rain. It tore through the hardened crust of the land with raw, deliberate force, digging deep, reaching for the hidden veins of groundwater that kept entire ecosystems alive. Imagine the landscape after a massive ice age thaw or a torrential downpour. Water, in unimaginable quantities, would flow across the frozen plains, seeking the lowest points to pool. But where? Oh, where? Did these crucial depressions often originate? They were, in many instances, the direct and undeniable result of the giant ground sloth's relentless, earth-rending excavations. These weren't just insignificant puddles. They were vital, temporary oases of life, critical lifelines in a harsh, often arid environment, providing essential drinking water and indispensable breeding grounds for a teeming diversity of smaller creatures, from the tiniest insect to the most vibrant amphibian, to the soaring birds that dotted the icy skies. The sloth, in its seemingly simple quest for sustenance, was inadvertently, yet powerfully, crafting miniature ecosystems, sustaining a vibrant web of life far beyond its own immediate needs, a silent benefactor of an entire frozen world. Furthermore, their constant digging had a transformative, almost magical, effect on the very composition of the soil, the ceaseless churning and turning of the earth. A subterranean ballet orchestrated by their massive claws aerated the compacted layers, allowing vital oxygen to penetrate the ground. This created the ideal conditions for an entirely different, more delicate array of plant species to flourish, those that thrived in the embrace of softer, less dense soil. The giant ground sloth, therefore, wasn't simply consuming plants. It was actively cultivating future forests, subtly yet powerfully dictating the very botanical makeup of the Ice Age flora. Imagine the sheer, unfathomable scale of this impact, repeated across entire continents for millennia upon millennia. They were the unsung, the often overlooked gardeners of a frozen world, their colossal claws the instruments of a silent, yet utterly profound, botanical revolution. But the giant ground sloth's influence didn't just stop at ground level. They had a particular fondness for the tender young leaves right at the tops of trees. And how did they get them? Get this. They would rise up on those powerful hind legs, using their massive, pillar-like tail as a third anchor point. This created an incredibly stable tripodal stance, essentially a living tripod. In this posture, they could reach an incredible 15 to 20 feet high, an astonishing reach. But that reach wasn't just for delicately nibbling the choicest leaves. Oh no, they did things on a titan's scale. They'd hook those immense claws into the trunk, anchor themselves, and use their sheer 4-ton weight and incredible muscle power to haul down or even completely topple mature, towering trees. Now, this might sound purely destructive, right? No, it was another stroke of unintentional ecological genius, a crucial part of the Ice Age ecosystem's grand design. Think about it. Pulling down those large trees opened up the forest canopy, like throwing open a giant window to the sky. Suddenly, sunlight could flood the forest floor, nurturing the growth of understory shrubs and grasses. And this newly accessible growth became a vital, abundant food source for countless other herbivores, the ones that simply couldn't reach the heights Megatherium could. The giant ground sloth, acting like a colossal landscaper, was unintentionally creating these community gardens, these pockets of bounty that help sustain the wider ecosystem. By doing this, they prevented dense forests from completely taking over. They maintained a dynamic equilibrium, creating a rich landscape mosaic, a patchwork of forest, shrubland, and open areas where a greater variety of life could thrive. Even something as seemingly unglamorous as defecation reveals the giant ground sloth's profound ecological role. Its long, complex digestive system didn't just break down plant matter, it prepared it. It softened seed coats, packed them into nutrient-rich dung, and turned its massive droppings into traveling gift baskets for the forest. These weren't just waste. They were fertile launch pads bursting with life, ready to take root in new territory. Imagine the giant ground sloth as a colossal, wandering seed dispenser, planting the future of forests with every step. Its presence didn't just touch the plants. These lumbering giants shaped entire ecosystems so deeply that even predators had to adapt. The movements, migrations, and behaviors of Ice Age carnivores were subtly influenced by the rhythms of these herbivorous titans. In their own slow, deliberate way, giant ground sloths didn't just live in the Ice Age. They sculpted it. Imagine a pack of dire wolves, their eyes gleaming with predatory hunger, their savage snarls echoing through the icy air, encountering a fully grown, utterly immense Megatherium. The sheer, awe-inspiring size and raw, untamed power of the sloth would have instantly forced them to reconsider their hunting strategies, to recalibrate their very understanding of the predator-prey dynamic. Direct confrontation would have been nothing short of suicidal, a fool's errand leading to certain dismemberment by those terrifying claws. Instead, predators would have been compelled to focus their attentions on younger, weaker, or infirm individuals, or perhaps to develop intricate, cunning ambush tactics, exploiting the sloth's relatively deliberate movements. The seemingly immovable wall of the adult Megatherium inadvertently, yet powerfully, shaped the hunting behaviors and even the complex social structures of Ice Age predators, subtly, yet decisively, guiding the evolution of the entire, intricate food web. Their defense wasn't merely about their own survival. It was a fundamental force that indirectly sculpted the very nature of predation in their frozen domain. Now, let your mind paint a picture of this extraordinary creature. The giant ground sloth was the very definition of monumental. Imagine an animal that could rise nearly 20 feet tall when standing upright, tall enough to look down on a full-grown mammoth. At its heaviest, it could weigh up to 8,800 pounds, heavier than 2 adult white rhinos combined. Every footstep was a soft tremor, a gentle reminder that a true titan had passed through. Its hulking body was cloaked in a thick coat of fur, but beneath the elephant-like hide lay something even more surprising: thousands of tiny bones, called osteoderms, woven into the skin like a natural chainmail. This built-in armor turned claws and fangs into harmless gestures, making the giant ground sloth a walking fortress. Its skeleton? A marvel of biological engineering. A pelvis like a stone pedestal, thigh bones thick as columns, and that signature combination forming a living tripod of stability every time it stood tall, freeing up its powerful arms and claws, part excavator, part defense system. And yet, this incredible engine of strength was a devoted herbivore. Its teeth weren't made for tearing flesh, but for grinding leaves, branches, and roots. A gentle giant by nature, but one whose mere existence reshaped the world. A walking paradox built like a tank, but fueled by plants. The paradise that Megatherium had unintentionally cultivated existed for millions of years, until a new factor emerged: a small primate species, seemingly frail of limb, but carrying within it the fire of intelligence, the capacity for cooperation, and deadly tools. Humans had arrived. Our arrival was like a pebble tossed into a still pond, creating ripples that grew ever larger, signaling the end of an era. The Megatherium fortress, once thought unbreachable, suddenly became astonishingly vulnerable. Its slow pace turned into a fatal weakness against predators who could plan and wield ranged weapons. At White Sands, New Mexico, the White Sands preserve haunting fossil evidence, the footprints of Megatherium and humans, coexisting, sometimes overlapping. This was no chance encounter. These are the traces of a hunt, a silent drama depicting the confrontation between primal power and cunning intellect. We can envision the giant sloth rising up in desperate defense, the hunters circling, and the inevitable, tragic outcome. As if fate sought to corner the giant ground sloth, the Earth itself began to change. The climate warmed, ice melted, and habitats transformed faster than many species could adapt. The vast grasslands, the kingdom of the giant ground sloth, shrank or were altered. Food sources became precarious. Populations became isolated. The perfect storm, formed by human hunting pressure and harsh climate change, delivered the final blow. Around 10,000 years ago, the last heavy footsteps of the Titan fell into eternal silence. The extinction of Megatherium was more than just the loss of a fascinating creature. It was the collapse of an ecological order, the silencing of an engine that had operated and maintained balance for millions of years. The natural water wells were no longer dug, leaving many lands drier, pushing numerous species into hardship. The clearing of large trees ceased. Forest structures changed. Grasslands were encroached upon, impacting the entire food web dependent on that balance. The giant gardeners vanished, leaving many plant species without crucial partners, affecting their genetic diversity and ability to recover. The rules of the predator game shifted, potentially leading to greater pressure on remaining species, sending ripples of disturbance throughout the entire ecosystem. The world lost one of its greatest architects. The resulting imbalance contributed to the wave of mass extinctions at the end of the Pleistocene, leaving behind an impoverished ecosystem, a sad echo of the diversity and majesty that was lost. We often mourn species like the woolly mammoth or the saber-toothed cat because they seem majestic, memorable. But what about the giant ground sloth? Does a creature without fangs, one that didn't attack or conquer, but patiently shaped nature for millions of years, deserve its name etched into human memory? They didn't hunt, yet they inadvertently nurtured the hunters. They weren't voracious, yet they sowed life. They didn't seize territory. They built ecosystems. Their disappearance is an ecological tragedy, a profound lesson carved deep into our understanding, a lesson about the immense impact humans can have, and the irreversible consequences when we break the fragile balance of nature. Thank you for joining us on this journey back through time. Goodbye for now, and see you again in the next story about the mysteries of our planet.